Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Show. Chris, I'll start us off here. We're going to talk a little Ohio State versus Penn State, the preview. This isn't quite the game, but it might as well be the game that everybody's going to be talking about this weekend. Ohio State, right? Defensively, coming into this game, I'm going to start it a little differently here, right? They're ranked number 2 in the country, all right, thus far. And they look legit. I mean, they look just as good as they did last year. I think defensively, they've done really well all year. You know, coming into this game against Penn State, I'm looking for Caleb Downs, JT Tuimoloau, and Jack Sawyer to lead this team in this one. Those are the big names on defense that I see have a ton of talent, you know, all over that defense. And I think that's the main thing you want to look at with this. Okay, if Ohio State can take away the run game early and force Aller or whoever you're going to tell us about next playing quarterback for Penn State to throw it, then it could be a very long day for Penn State. I want to bring up one stat for you right here, buddy. 5.8 points. Chris, do you know what that 5.8 points signifies?
A legit defense?
No, that's the average margin of victory when they play top 10 teams.
Woo.
Over the last 2 years, by the way. So you go back last year, you look at the Notre Dame game. They beat them by however much they beat them by last year. You look at the game against Mizzou. You look at the game against Penn State. You look at the game against Michigan. You look at this year, the Oregon game, right? That's the average margin of victory in this context that we're talking about here for either team that they played. And they actually haven't done that bad unless we're talking about last year. Of those, I think 5 games they've played of top 10 teams over the last 2 years, they've lost 3 of them. Yeah, Michigan, Mizzou, and then this year against Oregon. So is what it is. You know, the point is that I'm trying to make is obviously this is going to sound like the biggest no shit moment on this channel. Whoever is able to do more offensively will win this game. I can almost guarantee you that. Speaking of offense, Ohio State, look, they've been damn good, right? They're currently ranked 9th in total offense. Will Howard, I thought he's been okay. You know, he's put up 22 touchdowns to this point. We kind of talked about it a little bit on the show, right? I think what you get with Will Howard is you get a better athlete compared to Kyle McCord. He can run around. He can make some things happen. You know, he's had more rushing touchdowns, obviously, when things aren't there. I think one of the biggest issues, though, is he's not as good of a thrower of the football, right? And I think that kind of shows with what McCord's doing over at Syracuse now. A lot of fans probably will say, well, it's the ACC, it's Syracuse, they haven't played anybody, da-da-da-da-da-da. Kyle McCord could come in and light up Tulane or not Tulane, but Marshall and Akron and some of these other teams just the same way with his arm. He could. With the talent at Ohio State, I guarantee you he could. The rushing attack, right? They have probably 2 of the best running backs in the country in Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. You know, they've combined for over 11 touchdowns and 1,000 yards. Now, Chris is going to tell us here in a minute about the other 2 great running backs in the country. I'm sure we're going to hear about. But I want to talk about this, and then I'll flip it over to you, Chris. The receiving core, one of the best in the country, and they're led by a true freshman. We always talk about the kid from Alabama. You know, what about Jeremiah Smith over here, right? Already has 9 touchdowns on the season total. Guy's put up 623 yards. It's a freshman. The dude's balling. Again, when you go into a top 5 matchup, though, you got to throw all this out the window. You got to see who can score, obviously, the most points. Duh. Chris, I want to throw it over to you. Tell me a little bit about Penn State coming into this one.
Yeah, Nittany Lions, man, 7-0 this year. Last week they beat Wisconsin 28-13. Pretty good game for the most part. That was actually a tough-fought game. First half, they were down, I believe, 10-7, came back and ended up winning, like I said, 28-13. Now, we talked about it a little bit before the show, but offensively, Penn State putting up some numbers, 33.3 points per game. That's 32nd in the nation, 13th in total offense, which is pretty damn good, 29th in rushing offense, and then 30th in passing offense this season. So Penn State, pretty balanced offense. But, you know, the biggest question right now, and like I said, this is Monday right now. We don't know a ton here, but will Drew Aller play, right? He got hurt during that game. I think he was in a knee brace at the end of it there on the sideline. So it's going to be up to Bo Prabilla. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He stepped in last week, Christian, and get this stat line. It's pretty impressive. It was 11-13, 98 yards and a touchdown. So he looked pretty good back there, looked pretty competent. So like you said, you talked about the running backs a little bit, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. You know, if if Aller doesn't play, these guys are going to have to step up big time. And then obviously our boy, probably the best tight end in the country right now, Tyler Warren. This guy is a monster. If you haven't seen him play, you should. I think he's got like 27 catches or something crazy the last 2 games. They force feed him the ball. They line him up all over the field. Christian, he's actually thrown 2 passes this year. Guy does it pretty much everything for him offensively outside of the 2 running backs. So with that being said, the defense, I brag about Penn State's defense all the time. It's no joke here. You know, they only give up 14.3 points per game. That's 8th best in the country, 4th in the nation in total defense, 8th in rushing defense, 18th in passing defense. So those are all really good stats and rankings there as far as the defense goes. But here's the thing. They've only gave up 30 points once this year. So they've done good there as well. That was against USC. So they've been holding opponents under 20 quite a bit. So like you said, to start off the show, obviously it's going to be who could score the most points here. I do see this being a low-scoring affair, to be completely honest with you. Abdul Carter, Kobe King, Danny Dennis Sutton, these guys are some of the best linebackers in the country. Not to mention in the secondary, Kevin Winston Jr. and Jalen Reed. These guys are both going to be pros next year as well. This defense is loaded. I can't say enough good things about it here. And I honestly expect him, Christian, overall to play well in this game. I do. These 2 teams, obviously, it seems like every single year this is the game, right? Penn State now obviously hasn't won or beaten Ohio State in a few years now. Will this be the year? So I'm going to give my prediction here, and I don't normally do this on this show, but if Drew Aller does play, give me Penn State in this one. If he doesn't, I'm going to probably lean Ohio State. Nothing against, Penn State, their backup here. But as far as the final score goes, I'm going to expect Aller to play. Give me Ohio State 20, Penn State 23.
Yeah, I went a different way, whether he plays or not. I've got Ohio State 24, Penn State 17. Very similar. Penn State has not looked good at times this year. I feel like, Chris, against lesser competition. Obviously, I know they can play up or down to whoever they play. To me, I think that really this game boils down to, Penn State, to me, Tyler Warren has been majority of their offense if you've been watching him over the last month. And so you got to figure out a way to stop him wherever he goes out on the field. Keep an eye on him. Outside of that, I think Ohio State, this is a get-right moment for them. They need to come correct in this one. I expect them to win a very hard-fought game.